Hello, we're back. B, y equals 5x minus 3 for x values from -3 to 0. We are still using this instruction, which says using the guess method, complete the table of values using the equation below, and then determine if the relation is linear, quadratic, or neither. What's been given? Well, we've been given the equation. Okay, we've been given 4 x values from -3 to 0, and we've been given a table of values. U, what's the unknown? We look for the verbs. Complete the table of values, okay, that's number 1, and then determine, that's the second verb, determine if the relation is linear, quadratic, or neither, okay? So, unknown. Complete the table of values, okay? And then, the second thing, determine if the relation is linear, quadratic, or neither. E, what's the equation? Well, the equation is what we were given, so we're gonna use y equals 5x minus 3, but we also have to consider the step number 2, okay, which is and if linear, okay, and if linear, okay, first differences and second differences are constant. Okay, so we said constant means not changing. Okay, if quadratic, okay, if quadratic, first diffs or differences are not constant, second differences or second diffs are constant. Okay, now in question A, we didn't say this next part, but we will now. If neither, okay, if neither, okay, that means that first differences or first diffs are not constant, and second differences or second diffs are not constant. Okay? All right, solution space. We take what's the equation, what's the unknown, and the given to help us understand the solution. So the solution here, okay, so the solution, which is S, is going to be using y equals 5x minus 3, and we're going to sub in, okay, we're going to sub in the x values from -3 to 0. Now, when we say that the x values are -3 to 0, it means that x becomes -3 to start, and then in order, like a number line, we're going to go next is -2, -1, and 0. Just like you would count from -3, -2, always starting at the lowest negative value and going towards the positive, okay? So we're going to sub x equals -3 into y equals 5x minus 3. So x equals negative 3 means that negative 3 is going to replace this x letter. Okay, so y is equal to 5 times negative 3 minus 3. I'm still using BEDMAS. Okay, and when I do, I have to understand that the 5 and the negative 3 are being multiplied. Okay, so multiplication comes before any kind of subtraction. Okay, so 5 times negative 3, 5 times 3, which is negative, equals. Okay, so that's negative 15 minus 3. So I have negative 15 here, and then I just go minus or take away 3 equals negative 18. So y is equal to negative 18. So when x was negative 3, y was negative 18. When x is negative 3, y is negative 18. Okay? All right, so the next value is x equals negative 2. So I'm going to sub in x equals negative 2 into, maybe I'll move this over a little bit. Okay, into y equals 5x minus 3. Okay, so this negative 2 replaces this x letter, right? So y is equal to 5 times negative 2 minus 3. I'm still following BEDMAS. BEDMAS says that I must do multiplication before I do subtraction. So 5 times negative 2, 5 times 2, that is negative, equals negative 10. So y equals negative 10 minus 3. Okay, so negative 10, take away the 3, is equal to negative 13. So y is equal to negative 13. So when x is negative 2, y is negative 13. So when x is negative 2 up here, you put in the y value of negative 13 there. Okay? All right, next part is x equals negative 1. So we're going to sub in x equals negative 1 into the same equation. We keep using the same equation, okay? Into y equals 5x minus 3, okay? Where x now is negative 1. So when x is replacing or is replaced by negative 1, we have y equals 5 times negative 1 minus 3. We're still using BEDMAS. Okay, 5 times negative 1 means multiplication has to be done before subtraction, which is the take away 3. Okay, so 5 times negative 1, if I don't know, I'm going to type it in. 5 times 1 that's negative is negative 5. So y equals negative 5 minus 3. I have negative 5 here. Take away 3 is equal to negative 8. Okay, so when x is negative 1, okay, y is equal to negative 8. When x is equal to negative 1, y is equal to negative 8. All right? Okay. Next one is subbing in x equals 0. So subbing in x equals 0, we have sub x equals 0 into still y equals 5x, right? So y equals 5x, and then it's minus 3, minus 3. Okay, right there. Alrighty, so when x is 0, this x in the equation becomes 0. So y is equal to 5 times 0 minus 3. I'm still using BEDMAS. Okay, so this 5 times 0 is multiplication, right? So multiplication has to be done before subtraction, and the subtraction is take away 3. So I go y equals what 5 times 0 is. If I don't know, I type it in my calculator, is 0. Okay, so 5 times 0 is 0, minus 3. So y equals, and then 0 minus 3, there's 0 there, take away 3 equals negative 3. Okay, so when x is 0, okay, when x is 0, y became negative 3. So when x is 0, y became negative 3. Okay, so in the next two blank columns, we've got first differences, and we've got the heading second differences. Okay, all right, now remember the first blank is always just a line through it. There's nothing there every single time for first differences. So one blank for the first differences, right? All right, now first differences require us to subtract y values. Okay, so what are the y values? They're right here. Okay, so negative 13 minus negative 18, like this. Okay, so negative 13 take away a negative 18. Okay, so take away a negative 18. So if I have 13, make it negative with my plus minus sign. That first sign is subtract, so subtract, and then this second one is making it an 18 negative, so I press 18 and then negative and then equals, and then that gives me 5. Okay, all right, so those first two were done. Now when we do the next set, we overlap the oval and we use these numbers. Okay, so negative 8 minus negative 13. Okay, so in the calculator I write 8, which is negative. I then take the negative away, take away, and then the 13, this sign there is the negative sign. So I go 13, which is negative, equals, that's 5, equals 5. Okay, and then I overlap here. In my last row, I subtract the row above it, right? So I go negative 3 is subtracting negative 8. Okay, so I go negative 3, take away or minus negative 8. Okay, so I type in 3, which is negative. I press my subtraction sign, and then this 8 is negative. So it's 8, which is negative, okay, equals 5. You have to type them in exactly the way I'm describing them, otherwise you won't get the right answer. Okay, so these here are my first differences, okay? So these are all constant. Right? 5, 5, 5. It's not changing, right? My second differences, I leave the first two blank, okay? And then I subtract. So 5 minus 5, 5 take away 5 is 0. If you don't know that, you type it in. And then you overlap again and you use these two. So 5 minus 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. Okay? So these values there, they are the second differences, and they are all constant. Okay? So, in our solution, we are led to our sentence, okay, and we say, okay, you've got all constant first differences and all constant second differences. We say, since first differences, first diffs or first differences are constant, and second differences, see that? Yeah, second differences are constant. Okay. Therefore, the relation is linear.